Welcome. This is Penetrate Your Brain, the podcast, a Zombie Torres media production hosted by your favorite Mexican, Zombie Torres. The podcast where we penetrate your brain with knowledge and information about horror, the paranormal, true crime, current events, pop culture, the sex industry, and everything in between, and a whole lot more. I mean, gore. Some material may not be suitable for everyone. You have been warned. Enjoy.
So today we're going to talk about Roswell, New Mexico. Uh, I never watched the show, but I hear it was a great show on the WB. Um,
Yeah, I heard
what?
it was pretty iconic. I've
What?
seen the memes on Tumblr and stuff.
Yeah. Apparently, no. We're gonna talk about the actual UFO. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna talk about the actual crash, and I did some research on this. So we've both, from you told me you've also been to Roswell in person, and
Yeah.
so have I. Okay. So I did research on this, and I found out some things that I didn't know. Um, so first of all, the Roswell crash actually happened in Corona, New Mexico. Um,
Okay.
not and then the farmer Mac Brazel went to
hmm
Roswell to tell the sheriff that there was something crashed in his property. So then he went to tell the military. So this is really cool. So the Roswell crash was on the doorsteps of the Roswell Army Airfield, home of the 509th Bomb Wing Unit, which was the unit that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And there's actually evidence that when there's nuclear events, you tend to see UFOs before, during, and afterward. Yeah. So on July 8th, the headline for the Roswell Daily Record reports that the military has retrieved a flying saucer. The next day, it was officially changed to the weather balloon, story that we all hear now. Uh,
Yeah.
but the fact that this was outside of the military base and the 509th military crew, these are like fucking experts, dude. So people are saying the fact that this happened and they're just like, how can you mistake a weather balloon to a UFO? That's it
Right.
doesn't make sense.
They said something about like there was a saucer-shaped object, and it's just like, I don't know, a weather balloon doesn't really look like what they were describing.
Yeah, pretty much. So the whole Roswell incident was kept silent for the most part for like almost 30 years. Um, and then after 30 years, people were like dying off or retiring, and they
hmm
started like speaking out on it. So Major Jesse Marcel was the lead of intelligence for the 509th Bombing Group, and he actually took some debris home to share with his family. I'm sure you've seen the famous photo of him holding like a weather balloon thing, and he's like
Yeah.
looking like in the direction. So his grandson says that someone was barking orders at him, like off the out of frame.
Yeah.
Um, and I've heard the same story where you would it was pieces of that looked like tinfoil, and if you were to like crumble it up, it would go back to its original form. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. And
You know where they took the pieces?
no,
They took it to Wright Field, Ohio. It's
really,
a airline, like an airplane hangar situation. It's like it's a military base or something now.
I did not know that.
But yeah,
I thought they would have like kept it like
you think they would keep it around that, but yeah, no, they shipped it off to Ohio. So that's a fun fact.
that is a fun fact. So okay, so like I said, I did some research, and I'm just gonna put this right here because I can read it. Um, so apparently, April 12th, 1941, at 9:30 in Missouri Cape Girardeau, whatever you pronounce it, Reverend William Huffman gets a call from local police. Huffman was informing him that there was been a crash and is needed as a site to offer spiritual comfort to the victims. Right? Huffman was expecting a car accident, but to his surprise, there was a disc-shaped craft and three alien bodies on the floor, with tiny big heads, big eyes, and small mouth. They were tiny with big heads. They were
Mm-hmm.
like the aliens that we know of now. Like I guess the
Great,
Greys. The
like,
Greys, what they're called.
mm-hmm.
So apparently he got a glimpse of it inside the ship and said that there were like hieroglyphic type, you know, writings on the wall inside the ship. And of course, the military told him to keep his mouth shut and whatever. And I guess he didn't say anything for his whole life until his widow passed away in 1984 and told her family on her deathbed. You know, and I thought that was fucking cool because I've never heard that story before.
That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
and apparently they used this experience as like the I guess the they use this as like the way to like the practice for like future events. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, this is how we did it this time. Next time we're gonna do it. And I guess Roswell was the next crash. So okay, so here's another thing that I found out. While the Roswell crash is now infamous, what is lesser known is the similar incidents that were reported all across the U.S. around this time. August 1945, San Antonio, New Mexico. July 1947, Twin Falls, Idaho. August 1949, Hebgen Lake in Montana. September 1952, Braxton County, Virginia, were all incidents of UFO crashes that the government kept, hush hush.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, in June of 1948, almost a year after Roswell, a similar incident occurred in the Soviet Union. At the time, the Soviets were on the brink of developing their own atomic weapon, and this UFO encounter occurred near their ballistic missile test site in Kapustin Yar. Allegedly, a cigarette shaped object appeared over the testing ground, and the Soviets were able to shoot it down. They found remnants of bodies in it and technology that was recovered. And allegedly, this incident ignited the modern UFO era as we know it now. So,
Mm.
but yeah, like I said, I found some interesting facts that I was not aware of, before this.
Yeah.
Um,
That's pretty
yeah, yeah.
cool.
The
Cool
first
stuff.
the first time I heard about this, the Roswell incident, was when I was a kid watching Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
I sure did.
Yeah, so I remember like the creepy like, music, and I don't. The reason it stuck with me is like since it happened in 1947, it always reminded me of my dad's birth year. So it always like that
Aw.
was one of those connections and shit. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, I've always been into. I was always into the UFO conspiracy, like the stories and the abductions and the lost time and all that shit. So
Yeah, I can heavily relate to that. Like, I mean, I was always a weird fucking kid, so all kinds of creepy shit was up my alley. But like aliens, for some reason, had a very particular like I wouldn't say love,
interest,
interest, I
yes,
guess, because aliens are like the only thing that genuinely freak me the fuck out. Like vampires, smash. Werewolves would smash. Aliens, though, I don't know. There's just something really weird and sinister about them, and like especially like reading abduction stories and shit growing up. It's like this like morbid fascination.
right.
So like I like would remember watching Fire in the Sky and that shit just like
Oh,
ruined my whole entire life. Like I was like, ah,
yep. I remember that movie. I actually remember the story before the movie came out. I remember like watching, like I said, I used to watch all these, well, anything on TV about aliens, I would fucking watch, dude. And
mm-hmm.
then I remember when the movie came out, and I was like, damn, that's pretty cool how they, shot it, because you're as a kid. I mean, because I was like in junior high when the movie came out, so um, I think they did a really good job with it. But
Yeah,
then
for
like,
sure.
but you also hear stories about like you mentioned communion. Uh,
Yeah,
and then one of my favorite movies as a kid was uh, Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So we're at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert. You see the Greys, and
yeah.
I was always that kid. I'm like, well, it'd be kind of cool if like aliens kidnapped me, like, you know, like I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Flight of the Navigator.
I don't think I have.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's one of those kid gets kidnapped by a spaceship and they become friends. Kind
Oh,
of,
okay.
it's a Disney movie. So
Okay, that's probably why I haven't seen it.
um, but yeah, it was always like it always did pique my interest, because I've always been the kid who was like, well, there's got to be something more out there. You can't just it can't be black and white. There's got to be something out there. You know.
Yeah. You're so funny for that because I would have like paralyzed, like I would have sleep paralysis, and like my dreams would be of me getting abducted by aliens. And then like if we can segue into my Roswell story,
Right.
because I have had, so this is actually a recurring thing with me having nightmares of being abducted, and it's not necessarily that like it's like that blatant like where I see aliens and shit walking around. It's like I feel like my eyes are open, but all I see is like a red light, and I can hear things talking. And like I can't understand what they're saying, but it's very clearly a language because there's like a rhythm to it. And it's always freaked me out. And then when I was going to visit Roswell, I was moving from San Diego up to Cleveland with my ex. We like made a detour down through the south because I was like, fuck it. Like we have a little bit of money. Like we have a place to land when we get there. We don't really have to worry about working for like a hot second. Like let's make the detour. So we like stop in Tucson and get some Sonoran hot dogs. And then we were trying to drive all the way to Roswell. It did not work out. We were like 3 hours outside of Roswell, like not even like three, like maybe closer to like 2 hours outside of Roswell. It's the middle of the fucking night. We're so fucking tired. So we're just like, we'll just make it to Roswell in the morning. It'll be fine. Like, so we are like looking for like an exit to get off of. And I'm just like staring out like into the sky, like, cause it's just like nothing but stars and road in front of us. And there's just like one like particular really, really bright light. And I'm like, a rational human being. And I'm like, okay, it's like a satellite or like a planet or something that's like shining really bright. And then it just shoots off, gone. Like it just like it's like so fucking fast, but I can see it like leave. And
Right.
I was grabbed my ex's arm and I was like, please fucking tell me that you saw that. And like this man's a skeptic. He doesn't believe in any of this shit. He doesn't believe in ghosts. He doesn't believe in aliens. Like all of this shit is just like whatever. He was like, I don't know what I saw. I'm like, so you fucking saw it. You fucking saw it.
Well,
And then I had that fucking nightmare when we got to the hotel.
that's weird. I mean, so when you have sleep paralysis, that's what you see, aliens or alien.
Huh?
So when you have your sleep paralysis, it's aliens that you see. Like that's.
I don't see
Oh, I mean, you
anything. All I
feel.
see
You
is a
feel.
red light. It's like I can't move and I see a red light and then I can hear like talking. It's almost like, have you ever seen the movie Signs?
Oh yes, yes, yes,
Okay, so you know how the aliens talk like that? They're like clicking noises almost.
yes.
Okay, so it's kind of similar to that, but like more like guttural and like gurgly. It's so fucking gross and it's so weird. And I don't know if I'm actually being abducted by aliens. That would explain all the holes in my brain, but or probably I'm probably just like traumatized from something, which is also very
Well, I
likely.
mean, you never know because you do hear about stories where people lose 4 hours of time, and then they start seeing aliens for like the rest of their lives or something.
Right.
So you said you were coming from San Diego. What?
Hmm.
So what highway were you on? Was it like a main?
I
Was
don't know because I don't drive. I'm not the one who does the directions or anything.
right,
I'm
right,
just
right.
like, okay, we're gonna go here. And we had a GPS back when, before, because neither of us had smartphones at the time. We just had like flip phones and shit. So we had to have like a real actual like GPS.
Right,
So
right.
we so I'm not really sure what I'm sure if I let me look it up real quick
Okay. Yeah,
because if I
yeah,
can
because I'm trying to because like I think the 10 runs uh through there.
that would have been a good thing of me to maybe look at before I. Okay, so what is this? Yeah, the I-8 and I-10.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. That was where would we have been at? I wish I had paid more attention when we were driving.
Right. No, no, yeah, because like I said, like I don't know if it was you that I was telling, but like I'm real anal with maps. Like I have to know where I am.
Yeah, you told me about your math
Right.
thing.
So it's kind of like, if you're 3 hours away, I'm trying to. Because the last time I drove in that direction, we stayed in one of those like rest stops in right before entering Albuquerque. You know,
Okay.
and but I thought so. And then so one thing about New Mexico is an hour away is where Billy the Kid is buried. I don't know. So, and I have this weird fascination with him. So every time I go to New Mexico, I try to hit Roswell, and oh my god, I can't think of the fucking town. But try to do both things at once, and that's the only reason I went to Roswell the first time, because we were coming from Texas, and
Hmm.
I said, well, hey, let's fucking stay in Roswell because it's fucking Roswell, you know,
Yeah.
and and then when we leave in the morning, we'll just go. I think you go like northeast to to where Billy the Kid town is, and yeah, I remember like fucking driving, and and I'm sure you saw this too. Like the McDonald's is like UFO shaped, and the
It's
banks have
so
all.
cute.
It is so cool.
Everything is UFO themed. There's like little aliens and shit hidden everywhere, like either drawn on or little statues. It's
Yep.
just like it's sick.
And then around the Alien Museum in down in I guess Main Street it would be.
Yeah, yeah, the UFO
There's like
museum.
alien footprints all along the
Hmm.
so I thought that was cute. And then I remember there was a souvenir shop that we went into. I don't know if this was like before you, or it might have been after, when Jack Osborne and Ozzy had their show where they would travel around the country. Um,
Yeah.
we went to this souvenir shop, and there was a clipping of the local newspaper where it had like Jack Osborne and Ozzy with the owner of the shop, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. They filmed a little segment here, you know. But
Hmm.
it's a cool little town, you know. It's so yeah, I love the whole aesthetic of it, the whole aliens and the UFO.
It's a little gimmicky. It's kind of like one of those things that like you should do if you're like kind of like passing through, because like you can explore everything in like less than a day, I think. It's not
um,
very big.
yeah, it's not. You're right. You're right. Like you can do the museum in the morning and kind of just walk around, and yeah, you'd pretty much be
Yeah.
done with it.
The museum's not very big either.
Right, right. And they have like you have other shops. There was like a thrift store next door to it, if I remember correctly. But
I think so.
and and the last time we were there is it was funny because like the hotel we stayed in, um, there was a sign that said they were charged $100, or there was like a deposit of $100 for non-residents. And I mean, this has nothing to do with it, but I just thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was like, hey, why do you charge local residents more? And she's like, because a lot of people come here and party, fuck up our, our rooms. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes a lot more
Yeah.
sense. So, but no, yeah, you're right. I feel that if you're driving near or driving by, it is definitely a place to stop and take a lot. There's a lot of photo ops, especially for like
Yeah. It's very gimmicky.
very gimmicky. A lot of alien shit. It was a fun little town. I actually tell people like to fucking stop by. It's worth it, in my opinion. You know. So, um, and every time I show up in Roswell, the two times that I went there, it is always at night. So I'm always looking
Mhm.
for, looking up in the sky like, oh, let's see if I see something. Um, but I've never seen anything. I've seen, I guess fortunately, but
I was gonna say, like, you're lucky. I've seen that the Roswell incident. Ha! The Roswell incident that I had was like a whole like it was like probably like this. starkest, like I definitely fucking saw something, especially because I had a witness with me.
Right.
But like ever since I was like little, like I've seen like shit in the sky or whatever. And like, who knows? Maybe I did see something. Maybe I'm hallucinating because I'm insane. Like, you never know.
Well, I remember as a kid, there was this one time where I was like walking home, you know, when it was getting dark, and looking up at the sky and just seeing this like really weird, cloud looking thing, and I was like, I remember thinking to myself, that looks like a spaceship,
Yeah.
But then again, I was a kid, and you know how they say like you remember things differently as a kid, but
Right.
I do fucking believe in all that shit. I do believe people get kidnapped. Like how we were talking about last time, how President Eisenhower met with the aliens, and there's that story that
Mhm.
he agreed he let aliens kidnap Americans to be studied or whatever.
Yeah, they struck a
They
deal.
struck a deal, yes, and even his great granddaughter says that it's true. So, and then, ironically, the Air Force base that this happened at is down the street that way. So, in Mojave, Edwards Air Force Base, which is because the town I live in is literally a Air Force town. So, and
Yeah.
that's the Air Force, or that's the Air Force base.
Isn't that also where like the season of American Horror Story takes place? Is the Mojave Desert?
Yes, yes,
The double feature, the
yeah,
second half of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. If you're ever out here, there is a lot of. I could take you to like fucking a bunch of horror movies locations. As a matter of fact, my buddy uh, bought the house that from uh, House of a Thousand Corpses, the one that they use for the exterior
Mhm.
shots. And
Yeah.
he's so fucking proud of that. He's like, dude, I bought that fucking house. That's my house.
Oh,
So,
hell yeah.
um, but yeah, I believe it. And that's the one thing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I remember telling you about my road trip with my son, and
Hmm.
there was one time, there was one night that I swear to fucking God, I thought I was gonna see something. It was that time where there was like road where we saw no cars, no
Yeah.
lights, no nothing, and I think it was overcast, which made the sky look a lot darker than it should have been. And all we have are like my high beams, and I was like, dude, if I see fucking lights just start going across the sky, I'm gonna fucking lose my shit. But luckily that didn't happen. But I feel like it could be a possibility. Like I said, I've never happened. I've met people who have sworn they've seen shit. I knew a Air Force pilot in Iowa that said he used to see shit all the time when they were flying.
Oh, I bet. I
So
bet anyone working with like airplanes or shit like that, like they must see all kinds of creepy shit.
yes, I because he would tell me like, look, I'm not. He's like, he was out of the Air Force by then, but he's like, I'm not supposed to say this,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of shit. And honestly, every person that I've met throughout my life that's worked for the government, um, has always said, look, I'm not supposed to say shit, but
Ugh.
there's a lot that the government is not telling you. Um, but other than that, I mean, yeah, I mean, I had actually had fun doing research on this because there were things that I didn't know about, like that incident from that 241 in Missouri.
Yeah.
But like I said, I have always been infatuated with the aliens, um, and I guess that's where my love for the paranormal began, and then ghosts and goblins and all that shit. So,
Yeah.
um, other than that, I guess that'll be our episode for Roswell. Unless you got something to add.
I was just gonna talk like just bring up like the it's funny because like the time that like the Roswell incident happened, it's like during that time there was like a huge like UFO craze because that's when like monster movies and stuff were starting to become a really big thing, like UFO invasion. So it just kind of like made that even more popular, which is super funny. So you have a lot of those like space age movies and stuff.
Yes, and like I mentioned before, there is evidence of anytime there's I guess when the first time they tested out the atomic bomb in New Mexico, the UFO sightings spiked. You know,
Yeah,
and like I said, there have been events around the world where if it involves like nuclear plants or whatever, there is a spike in UFO sightings. Uh,
yeah.
People, I guess they're and people say they're like, dude, they're watching to make sure we don't fucking blow our blah to blow us. We don't. Sorry.
To blow us.
To they're watching, making sure we don't blow the fucking earth up. So sorry, tongue tied there. And I believe it. It's kind of like I watch fucking Ancient Aliens all the fucking time, and they do talk about these things and shit. And I mean, and there's so many UFO stories and facts that, I mean, I wish we could get into them, but it kind of just starts spreading out. If you're gonna talk about this, then you go that way, and you know,
Right. It's very broad
very
subject.
broad. Thank you.
Like we're trying to like kind of stick to Roswell, and it's hard because like there's like other things that are related to it, and but then you can't completely. We'll save other stuff for other episodes. We could definitely get into like in a one episode we could talk about like the different categories of aliens because when I started reading into it, all I was familiar was with uh when I was younger was like the grays, and then finding out that there's all these different classes and races, and it's just like, oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, I heard there's like one that looks like an insect, or or like a
Yeah,
or
there's an insect one. There's the Nordics, which are like tall, blonde, like humanoid aliens.
right. And then, because have you ever heard the
The,
story of God, Thor? No, hold on. Yeah, we'll save it for another episode, and we'll actually talk about it outside. But no, like I said, everything just kind of branches out, and
yeah,
I mean, and I would love to also talk about like the different encounters. The first encounter, second encounter, third encounter. Fourth encounter is like, I guess, when you get kidnapped. But I would love
talk
to
a little
like,
bit more about the communion and how much of
yes,
a how many waves that made when that came out.
right, and also how they implant stuff on you, and when you get it, and then actually the one incident in England, like in the 1980, I believe, Christmas 1980. I don't know if you heard how the aliens left code, 00110, and
Yeah,
it
yeah, the
predicted, like,
binary code.
yeah, and then it kind of just, people that studied it, like, oh, they actually predicted a bunch of shit that was happening happen in the future. So yeah, there's just so fucking much that we could talk about. Um, but yeah, like I say, it just fucking branches out. There's so much. Uh, but yeah, I would love to dive into more of it. And if you guys have been kidnapped by aliens or have a alien story, hit us up.
Send us your alien anal probing story.
I would love to
Would
read
like to
those.
know if an alien stuck something up your butt.
Yes, or anything up your butt stories are always appreciated.
They won't be in the alien episodes unless they're super weird. Like,
And okay, so before we go, have you ever met people that kind of just are like out there, and do you talk about, like, oh yeah, I was kidnapped by aliens and blah blah blah, and because so I had a friend whose dad was not all the way there, and
okay,
when he would get drunk, he would come up with the weirdest fucking stories. I remember one time I was at her house, and he was like fucking plastered, and I kind of got stuck, literally stuck in the corner talking to him, and he's like, "So back when I used to be gay, the aliens used to like come and take me and probe me," and I'm just like, "Whoa, dude! Like, that's a lot." But the first thing that popped in my head is like, "Well, you used to be gay, like."
I think Homeboy took a little bit, took a little something something at a gay bar and had a vivid hallucination.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, when he would get drunk, he would see shit like like he would see his dead wife and what it was yeah, he was but I feel like I've met a lot of people throughout my life that are just like, "Oh yeah, me and the aliens, we're like this." And sometimes they come pick me up and uh they're my friends, that kind of shit. Um and I mean, it's just I just feel like I come across a lot of crazy people, honestly. I have that.
See, between me and those guys, where I say that I get abducted, like I might have been abducted. I'm like, I'm scared. I don't want that shit to happen.
Right. I mean, because you hear stories, and I'm like I said, as a kid, I would be like, yeah, dude, kidnap me. But then you hear stories where like there was an incident where a truck driver got kidnapped. He lost time, whatever, and then he started like seeing things. Like when he would close
Mhm.
his eyes, he would see like the stars and shit, and it kind of just drove him crazy. Um, but yeah, there's just so many stories and just I don't know, just like I say, it just fucking branches out. And I would
Yeah.
we would love to hear your stories.
I definitely would love to do an episode about encounters and kind of like gather as many, audience member stories to see like we'll like read them off at the end or something after we go through some of like the more famous cases.
That'd be great. So that being said, you can hit us up on our Instagram, Penetrate Your Brain podcast. Hit our link tree. All of our stuff is on there, and an email that you can send us your story. And if you want to give yourself a little shout out.
All right, my Instagram is Bruja de Basura. I model, I DJ, I dance. Hire me for your next event.
All right, so we will end that there. And again, send us your alien stories. I guess peace out.
Bye.